Hello, everyone. This is Elijah Ignatieff of Planetary Guardians, and we have Planetary Guardians 2 Team Ever starting out in Yorkton. And we have four very, very prominent players. And why don't we hear from everybody and tell us how your week went and maybe an insight into your 5 spaces map that you did last week and the value. Did anything happen to bring your attention to something? You want to start, Sylvia?
Oh, sure. I like that we started off simple. Okay, sorry, just hang on. Let me hang on. I took a screenshot, sorry. I like that we started out simple, and my intention last week was to show me just what I needed to know to grow personally and in business. And going through not having value cards accessible, but just making up your own values, I thought was pretty cool. And I like the values that I selected, and they still resonate with me for this week. So yeah, so all good.
Was there anything that happened this week that was maybe a bit different that maybe came to your attention? Regarding the 5 spaces, or distinguish them, or patterns, or?
Well, probably personal space and sacred space. So I'm working on those two. I'm more aware of those 2 spaces and bringing those forward right now. And even this week, probably more of a sacred space was happening. So yeah, and it feels good. Like it resonates really, really well with me.
It looks like your head is in the middle of the sacred space of your labyrinth. So
yeah. And your values were what in those 2 spaces, Sylvia? Was it love and truth?
Okay, yes. Personal space was love, and sacred space was trust.
That's cool.
Awesome. Okay, Michelle?
I didn't keep the, active, let's check in every day on this, but now kind of looking back and mapping to what I had in each space, I can see that there was some shifts or some greater awarenesses that came through. I'm looking at kindness. I had kindness in group space, and integrity in sacred. And what the last week I've had a lot of shifts with being aware how reactive I am in the world right now, and the levels of reaction with what I'm experiencing in my little bubble of home, or when I have to venture out to get food or whatever. And I have opinions that are likely contrary about what's going on in the world. It's likely contrary to the vast majority of people. And I get very impatient when I go out in the world. And I sat with the realization that I could let the anger and my triggers dictate how I navigate through life. That if I want to stay in integrity, the only thing that I am responsible for is staying in integrity with my awarenesses and my beliefs and my energies. And I have no business imposing what I think out to anybody else unless they ask if they're interested in my opinions. And so I'm very consciously being aware of what triggers me, like in my Facebook feed, what I choose to click on, what I don't, and then stepping out and going, is this helping me or hurting me? Am I going down the vortex of negative, or shall I lift myself up and do positive? So I was aware of that energy all the way through. And just, this sounds cliche or stupid or whatever it sounds like. I don't have to tell you what it sounds like. You can decide what it sounds like. But hearkening back to like even life pre-social media or simpler times, for if it sounds stupid or whatever, when people could just agree to disagree.
Yeah.
and be less black and white and right or wrong, dark side, good side, light side, the force, whatever. Just everybody, just because you piss me off on my Facebook wall doesn't mean I have to delete you. And being less reactive either way. So I just played with that and kind of went down the road. Oh, I'm so sad the world sucks so much. And then, oh no, the world's pretty good like this. So that's a rambling response. I don't even know if I'm answering anything, but I'm when I look at this, the group space I'm choosing when I can, and I don't go right into trigger kindness, which was my priority over there. And then sacred is like watching over my own self. That's my interpretation of it. And that's where I have to stay in integrity with what serves me the most and stay in integrity with my priorities. And that's staying out of the mosh pit of whatever energy doesn't serve me and being responsible for where I'm at.
So, thank you, Michelle. Emmanuel?
I don't know if I can follow up from that. It was a good week. I'd say a really, really good week. We're finally getting good sunshine out. And as a result of that, I think I've been happier. And other people have been happier. They're getting their vitamin D, which is always super positive. Work's been good. Even the things that haven't been good, we're finding ways to kind of make them good. So definitely grateful for that. In reference back to the map we did last week, I'd say the two that stuck out the most were group space and sacred space. And what I had in both of those were courage and loyalty, respectively. And as far as kind of going back and looking at how the map affected the last week, I'd say it allowed me to be a little bit more congruent. It's something that I'm grateful for because I feel like being congruent gets you closer to being peaceful, whatever that means for different people. So when you're living in whatever you consider to be the truth, it's helpful, especially as it relates to kind of the group space thing and having the courage to kind of act the way you feel like you need to act and not the way you need to act to necessarily go along to get along in a group situation, but act kind of in congruence with what you think is right. Something kind of liberating about that I definitely picked up on in the last week. And with respect to the whole loyalty thing, it just became I became more and more aware of how important that is to me, especially in certain relationships and situations. So it was kind of spooky how that came about, but I'm going with it. I'm not complaining yet, so it's good.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Lori?
It's kind of cool how like this map has sat in front of me all week. It sat right on my desk, so I just glance over it. But so this week, what's happened is group space got hit. There's a transition happening in my company, so it's emotional for me. It's an emotional for the team. So my one-on-one space and my group space was impacted, and something that happened the other day made me realize the authenticity that I have in one-on-one space is very, very important, but it was about being authentic internally within myself, which I believe I have, but someone challenged me on that. And then I sat back and I went, okay, group space, mine was love. So I just sent love to that person because of the things that were said, but I realized how much and how little boundaries I have created for myself and how I've allowed other people to come into my space with their stuff, their hurt, their pain, but how can I work with them? So I sat back and I go, stress, that person, number one, is scared. Number two, there's some trauma somewhere. You just know, right? Because why is this coming out? And then I go, stress is how we respond when our needs are not met. So then I go, okay, authenticity and love. So now I've kind of planned out a meeting with that person to sit down and have that conversation with love as the base, but to say, what's going on for you? So that's happening right after we hang up. But that really woke me up to go, okay, just because, and like Michelle said too, just because I think a certain way and I'm feeling a certain way, other people feel differently because we've all journeyed this planet so far on completely different paths. So it was a real awareness for me. And yet I've been working with this stuff over the years, but yesterday it really hit me with this map and the fact that I left it sitting in front of me to pay attention to my values. But for just the fun of it, like Sylvia said, it was neat to choose your own values without using the set of cards, the values cards. But after I was finished yesterday, what came up for me was, and I pulled cards was freedom, gratitude, and learning. And those 3 cards came out for me, and I go, they couldn't fit me better than anything. Freedom is important, be grateful, and continue to learn. So I kind of went those values, but for fun, I just told some because I believe in divination. And when this whole deck of cards are sitting in front of me, it's pretty hard not to play with them. So that was very impactful. Everybody get a set.
Our world. Thank you, Lori.
Yeah.
I guess, so what you're seeing here is there's an immediate impact around making a map, looking at the 5 spaces and putting a value in each space.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple, but it's a very powerful exercise that you can do with anybody as a facilitator. And so whatever I'm doing with you, the idea is that you can do with anyone that you want and bring it into your business. It's part of the New Paradigm Toolkit. And there are maps, card sets, game boards, processes, and software. So at some point, you'll be building your tool, the New Paradigm Toolkit, and adding the tools that you already have that you've collected on your own. But you're just, I find that as a facilitator with other people, there's a lot of intuition. There's a lot of sort of reading the moment of what is the best tool to use to take that group or person to where the next step is for them. And so congratulations on the first step. And I gave you an assignment of 7 lifetime goals. And I wondered if we could do another round and say how you did, and if you did them, if you're willing to share them, that would be great. And again, sort of we have to be concise with our speed because we don't have much time together and a lot to get through. So Sylvia, would you like to go first?
Absolutely. So yeah, I did write 7. The far off one would be like to fly to outer space, say like to the moon or something like that, right? You wanted the impossible? Well,
right.
It may not be the impossible, but it's way out there. Other ones are like to travel and see the world, but to be more specific than that is to experience it and the people, not just travel and look, but feel and be part of the experience. Of course, a goal that I always try to put out there, or that I always, is out there, to be surrounded by people that I love and that are like-minded, to be able to empower people to think and grow spiritually and to be their best, to always be creative and do a blog and just, yeah, things like that.
Okay, thank you very much. Michelle?
To eventually live near water, in a beautiful home, like some sort of waterfront. I just left it at water, and then I realized that could be a flood zone, so I clarified that for the universe, some sort of intentional waterfront in a beautiful home. I want, my goal is to have work being my play, like it's optional. I have the financial flexibility to work or not on whatever, whatever I deem play is actually generative and brings money to me. Mm-hmm. So why not? I'm in a nurturing, generative, loving, expansive relationship. Love relationship. I'm a fantastic role model to Dexter, my son. My energy, like moving through the world, I'm an invitation to others to connect with authenticity and openness, and just kind of having an invitation there. And 6 is I'm grounded in my own awareness and share myself where it's a contribution, like my yeah, kind of what I spoke to before. It was like, if they're not asking, they're not interested. I don't want to force myself on anybody. And then I got really stumped on the impossible dream, to dream the impossible dream. So maybe I'll go on a space ride with Sylvia. I don't know.
Okay, thank you very much, Michelle. Emmanuel?
This is in no particular order. I don't know how I really came about this list, but the first one I had was to create generational wealth. I think I'm fortunate enough to work in an industry where we learn a lot of cool strategies and techniques, and it would be a shame if I can't at least put them into practice myself for my family right now, and I guess family in the future. So that'd be number one. The second one I put was to start a foundation based upon conquering local hunger. So I know like poverty is an issue obviously globally, and it's definitely a C-type goal to want to solve it as far as the entire world. But in the city kind of as small as a Saskatoon or Regina or Prince Albert, even smaller towns we have here, I think it's enough affluent people where if you organize something properly, it shouldn't be impossible to get rid of poverty, or at least cure hunger, which is like a subset of poverty within that city. So I think it would be cool to look at that issue from a problem-solving perspective and hopefully break some ground there before I'm dead. I also had write a book that impacts society that would basically just be my commentary on living. So a little bit audacious there, but I think I have some good ideas, and I want to give away the book for free and just kind of show people, hey, this is my opinion on how to live. You don't have to pay for it, but I think it'll help you if you read my book. So I added that to the list. I put become prime minister on there. I think it would be a cool thing to do, and I could help some people. I don't really want the power. I just want to correct things, if that makes sense. I could literally be prime minister for a month and then leave, just fix a few things, and then I'd be on my way. It wouldn't really bother me. So
That's
I have that
lovely.
on my list. I have live up to my potential on the list as well. I think that was a big thing as far as a lifetime goal, because especially when we're young, you're kind of told you can do anything, and as you get a little bit older, your limitations kind of get more restrictive as far as what you put on yourself and what society puts on yourself. So oftentimes we get kind of lost as far as what that potential looks like. So I'd like to figure out A, what it is, and B, hopefully try and live up to it before I'm gone. I also had to speak 10 languages fluently. I'm at a couple right now. I think it's important as far as connecting with people to speak to them in the language that they're most comfortable with. I've found even relationships I have right now, even if you're not fluent, by attempting to connect with someone kind of on their own level, you get better relationships that way. So if I could speak 10, I think I'd be able to go most places in the world and connect reasonably with people.
Wow.
I don't know. I think that should be 7 or at least 6. I don't know if I missed one. No, I think I got them all.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Manuel.
Wow.
Lori?
Awesome. Mine was, again, at random, to guide others, to help them reveal the gifts they have in themselves that they often don't see. So I thought that was cool when Emmanuel said, well, we said, do you see us? And he goes, yeah, but I see me. I thought that was kind of cool because that was that reflection. Explore the superhero in me. Take all the knowledge that I've learned in my life and the wisdom that I've created or that I have internally and share it with the world. Continue to live intentional, not random. Write a book. Create a digital platform called 9 Points of View. And through that, the philanthropic side, because I got goosebumps when Emmanuel said to conquer world hunger. And start with a small community. I think that's what it's about. But the philanthropic side of points of view would be, or 9 points of view would be, the financial literacy. So keeping money in scope, but for people to realize it really isn't about the money. So financial literacy is something I'd love to see people conquer so they're not in this stress around the world of money. Be the change I want to see in the world of business, taking this model, the Inflow Matrix, out to the world of business. Teaching others how to make a living by doing what they like, rather than doing what they want, by doing what they want rather than doing what they feel they have to. So they go to a job, they hate it, but to start people, and I guess that kind of fits into help them reveal the gifts in themselves. So they know they can be doing a lot more, and it's not always about the money. It's about the experiences. And then to continue to be an impact to my children and grandchildren, and to be part of the shift that's going on in the world around the economics and the money world, and to be a big part of that shift and bring that holistic model to the world. That's it. That's them. And I guess the one that's really could be out there is take people on a magic carpet ride. Like really take them with my superhero in me, take them on a magic carpet ride, as corny as it might sound. That's how I want it to feel.
Nice. Okay, so everyone has heard the 7 lifetime goals of everyone else, and I think if someone or all of you at some point created a document where you can put them all down and then everyone can see it. This is, I think, very important for you to look at the long-term goals of your teammates and to start to see which goals you connect on, which of these seem to be the ones where you can go, you know, we're similar in this regard, and this can start to formulate perhaps how you're going to work together and what you're going to work on. And was there any, okay, we've got 10 minutes and then I'll re-invite you back in, right? Okay, so what I want you to do is get your piece of paper in front of you, and what we're going to do is we're going to connect the 5 spaces model with the 7 lifetime goals. So in every system, your values and your goals are your largest sort of leverage points. So if you want to understand any type of business system or normal human activity system, if you know the values and you know the goals of that system, you sort of know a lot about that system. So what we've done at the beginning is we're identifying it personally for you to figure out your own, and then we're going to go into more of the team aspect, okay? So now what I want you to do is I want you to draw a time cone, which is, I don't know if...
A what?
A time cone.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So
You want it horizontal as well?
What's that?
The page to be horizontal, not vertical?
Yeah, yeah. Have it like this, and then you have your past, your present, and your future. So this is the past part of the time cone. The center point where they meet is the present, and then to the right or your left is the future. I should be using a black magic marker. Does everyone get that?
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay, now this is, in a sense, if you're looking at what the main container of the inflow matrix is, for now it is this time cone. And so if you can almost picture the past is behind you, the present is now, right where you are, and you can maybe look at your third eye. It's almost like adding a conceptual third eye, and then the future is projected in front of you. So you're creating a conceptual time cone. The past is behind you, and the future's in front of you. Now, if you know the Myers-Briggs, one thing I found, does everyone know the Myers-Briggs assessment system? They have a judger and perceiver. And they said that the main difference between the judger and the perceiver was present in the moment and had like the past, present, and the future. And the judger had a timeline in front of them. So it struck me as very interesting as humans that we have a different place to put timelines. And so this is just playing with the idea of a timeline and creating a time cone and being at the center point in the present moment, and then having the past behind us and the future in front of us, okay? And so now, your end of your future time cone, at the very end, are your 7 lifetime goals. So you might want to write your 7 lifetime goals at the end of your future. Right up here, those are your 7 lifetime goals. You got that, Sylvia? Or okay?
No. Okay.
So right there is is the end of your future.
Right.
So that's where your 7 lifetime goals goes.
Okay.
And then right at the present moment, just as you're coming out, what we're doing is we're using the 5 space model as the first conceptual model that we're using. So we're building this conceptual space in front of us, and you could put any model there that you want. Doesn't matter. Like what I've realized is that you can put any number of concepts into any model, and any model will kind of work. But what we're doing is we're actually deciding upon a specific configuration. We are going, okay, we're taking the 5 spaces model because at the get-go, it's distinguishing, you know, you from you and the other, you and the group of others, the community and the sacred. And if you put, let's say, Maslow's hierarchy of needs there first, right? you would be entering into this conceptual universe through these different needs. So you would be seeing the needs first. But those Maslow's hierarchy of needs might be in the personal space, or it might be in the one-on-one space of the other and you. So it's not really distinguishing at the get-go your boundary between you and everybody else. And so if you look at Ken Wilber's work that has levels of consciousness, the levels of consciousness are distinguishing the individual with the group, the individual and the group, the individual and the group. It's not just levels of consciousness like in Power versus Force, where there's just this sort of arbitrary number reaching towards enlightenment. It's a distinction between these dyads, between the essential thing of being human, in that I am here by myself, and then I am connecting to other people. And that is the big, like how I connect to myself and how I connect to other people has a big impact on what kind of consciousness level I'm operating at. Does that make sense? So the Inflow Matrix is a whole bunch of maps, a whole bunch of models that can be ripped around and moved around and done whatever you want with. But what we're doing is we're sort of building a main reference point for us all to use. And then when you're sharing it with other people, look how simple it is. 7 lifetime goals. You're giving them just the structure and they fill in the content. Here's the 5 spaces, you choose the values. So what we're doing at the get-go is we're giving them a universal structure that makes sense, but then you're able to custom design it with the actual content. You choose your goals, you choose your values. So we're not trying to impose anything on someone. We're just trying to create a reference point for them to use that we can all share as this language reference point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any feedback? Any questions?
Well, I guess with myself, Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP. But in the Enneagram personalities, I'm a 7 with an 8 wing. And often those personalities, they put it out there to people. Like they try to drag them along, get them to think their way. So when you say it, doing it this way, there were certain things that every one of the team members here said, and I got goosebumps. So like you say, without me having to go out there and plow it out there, I'm listening to everybody else's 7 lifetime goals and I'm going, oh my gosh, that person thinks that way? Oh, that just gave me goosebumps. And I think it connects us at a level that we don't really take the time as humans to connect with.
Anybody else? Everybody's good? Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stop it here because we're going to be cut off in the middle, and I shall invite you all back in for part 2, okay? So we'll say goodbye and we'll start part 2 very soon.
Okay.